that farmhouse up there. It's like something out of Wuthering Heights. Good morning everybody, welcome to the border Ryker. Today we're heading south out of Wyke and we're heading towards what is one of the most important 20th century archaeological sites in Scotland. I won't tell you much about it until we get there, so let's see what the day shall bring. Onward and upward. I love coming over this little bridge. Horse in the field there. What I will say about the site where we're going to is it's a place of military significance. Also today I'm testing out a pin lock on the visor of my helmet, and I'll be honest, at this point I absolutely hate it. Pigs. Or as my old dad used to call them, guffies. They were one of his favourite animals. And he never referred to them as pigs. They were always guffies. And this is us here now. Well, it's just up the top of this hill. Yes. Right, we'll just park here for now. No, we'll go up a bit further. I do believe we found it. Okay, let's have a look around, shall we? Now over there on the hill, you can see there, that's an old Nissan hut. We can't get down to that from here, but you might be able to make out different markings where there were paths and roads and various buildings. And this was Stobs Camp. We're also here, we've got the remains of a building and some roads going up here. We want a few sheep just wandering loose. And Stobs Camp was actually a very important site. It was it first became a camp, a military installation in 1903. It was bought by the Ministry of Defence and it was set up as a training camp, and it housed between 20 and 30,000 men in the outbreak of World War I and during the times of World War I. It became an internment camp and a POW camp. mostly for German and Austrian prisoners of war. And after the war, it went back to being a training camp, and it was used for training for the D-Day landings. And then during World War II, once again it became a prisoner of war camp, and it actually became the headquarters, the HQ camp for prisoners of war in the whole of Scotland. So it was a really important site. And this is only the second time I've actually been up here. I think there's a road back there you can take that comes down to there, but I'm not sure. I might go check that out, see if we can find it. After the Second World War, it became a repatriation camp for Polish citizens who had at one time been caught up in the war. And then it finally closed its doors, closed its gates in 1950. It's quite an important site. And pretty much all the land around here is part of that camp. There weren't that many attempts to escape from the camp when it was the prisoner of war camp, mainly because, well, there's not really anywhere to go. There's only Hawick for absolutely miles and miles around. Plus it's fairly bleak terrain. There's not really much opportunity for living off the land and surviving. Escape and evasion would be very difficult around here. I think this is the most off-roading that Ripley's done since we got her. Beautiful tree. It's a better look at this and that, which would have been the type of building that the POWs were housed in. This would be especially bleak in winter. And the huts would probably have a couple of wood burning stoves for heat. It'd be a fairly grim place. But then the military's never been very well known for its 5-star luxury. Stayed in similar places to that myself. The first time I was actually 12 years old. I was in the Army Cadets. You were supposed to be 13 to join, but I lied about my age. And I went on a 2-week camp down in just outside a place called Hornsea, which is on the east coast in Yorkshire, just down from Scarborough. And kids from the ages 13 to 16, 17 were housed in huts very similar to that. It was my first experience of military life. I can't say I was impressed back then. Which is ironic because I went on to spend 7 years in the military, 5 years with the Royal Engineers, mostly out in Germany. And then I did 2 years with the Northumberland Fusiliers, based in Northumberland, and we went out and we trained in Eastern Europe, actually, in the Czech Republic. We were the first Western troops to train with an ex-communist force, that was the Czech army, and at that time the Czech army was still conscripted, whereas we were all volunteers. For the first week out there, they didn't like us much. They thought that we were poor little rich kids playing at soldiers, because we made a lot more money than them. But the ice eventually broke, and we got on great with them. They were a good bunch of lads. There was rivalry, but it was friendly rivalry. So the sign over there says that in there is Stobs Station House, and that's where the railway station would have been, where the trains would come in and they'd drop off or pick up the troops for Stobs Camp, and it would be also where they'd bring in the prisoners of war. I don't think you're allowed in there. I think it's a private residence now. So we'll just head on up. Okay, onward and upward. And obviously this viaduct would be where the railway would have come from Hawick to the camp itself. Well, thanks for coming along for the ride. I hope you found that entertaining and maybe even a little bit informative. So wherever you are, stay safe, stay well, and if you're out and about, ride safe. And I'll see you next time.